Go. You are recorded. Now comes the fun part. My name is Micah Hunt, your host with the most, with this virtual presentation Friday. This is a group we've been putting together since May. Can't believe it's been that long. And we provide education, information, resources, and just a fun experience to learn about resources in the community and outside the community across the country and outside the country, to professionals that are helping and assisting our seniors during these challenging times, and to stay connected and networking as well. So we will be sending out an email following this call. So those that are requiring CEU credits, you will get a free hour. And from here moving forward, we will always have a free hour of CEUs for our attendees. So yay, that's exciting, because now you can actually gain something than just listening to me and our presenters talk, but you get something out of it as well, not just also resources. So it's exciting. I'm excited. Thanks to Virginia Assisted Living Association for coordinating with me to do that. Now, without further ado, the main event, our wonderful, amazing speaker, Miss Mandy, I'm probably going to pronounce his last name wrong. I should have checked with you before this. Shintani?
Perfect.
Ow, wait, which one? I said two.
The first one, Shintani.
Shintani. Okay, there we go. I was always afraid that I might curse in that word, so I wanted to make sure I didn't do that. So we have Mandy Shantina, who is going to be speaking on get outside with urban polling and activate your walk. So without further ado, Mandy, and I'm going to mute myself.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone, and welcome. Micah, thank you so much for that introduction. And I just want to say as well, thank you so much for this opportunity to participate in your virtual presentation Fridays. So without further ado, I'm just going to share my screen. So again, the title today is Get Outside with Urban Polling and Activate Your Walk. And just before we get started, I just want to describe to you a little bit about this photo. This photo was just featured in one of our major magazines last week. This is Joy. She is actually 102 years old. She's actually just finished walking 86 kilometers over 102 days as a way to raise funds for a Maritimes Nursing Association. So just such a great example of how the polls can be used for people of all different ages. She's just going over the finish line here. And when Joy was asked about what is her secret, she said, never stop moving. So I just thought, what a great example. That kind of just says it all, doesn't it? Never stop moving. So as Michael mentioned, I am a occupational therapist and a gerontologist by background. I started up a company called Urban Polling. And basically for me, the whole concept of urban polling, or it's known generically as Nordic walking, so you'll hear me refer to it quite a bit as Nordic walking, came to me from my Swedish neighbor. So basically, I was looking at healthy aging trends. I think we can all agree the Swedes or the Scandinavians, as older adults, the healthiest cohorts on the planet. And I wanted to find out, what are they doing? And my neighbor indicated to me that actually they're simply walking. So I found that fascinating when you look at all the different things that we do to stay healthy, and the Scandinavians are just walking. And she said, but also everyone here uses Nordic walking poles as part of, it's actually part of their culture, whether you're a preschooler, an Olympic athlete, it was a cross training for cross-country skiing in the summertime, whether you're a busy mom or whether you're an older adult, people use walking poles. I had never heard of this concept before. And if you look at the research, what you'll find is that there are 300 independent peer-reviewed studies on PubMed showing the benefits. And those benefits really match what we're trying to achieve for older adult programming and for rehabilitation. So balance, core strengthening, posture, walking endurance. I'm going to go through a lot of those today, but those are just a few of the examples. And then what we did here in Canada 15 years ago is we looked at how do you adapt the fitness activity of Nordic walking and the poles so it is safer and more effective for rehabilitation and less active older adults. Okay, so let's take a look at what I'm going to talk to you about today. I'm just going to introduce the concept to you and show you how it's been beneficial for recreation programs, senior living, right to SNF. I'll show you the research more related to older adults or less active older adult. I'm going to show you a modified technique and pole that we designed for older adults in rehab. And then I'm going to show you a bunch of innovative seated and standing exercises that you can do with poles, whether it's through you want to prescribe on a one-to-one basis, virtually, in a group program, hopefully after COVID is over. And then I'll just talk to you about some of the resources that we have available. And please stick around because I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have regarding this. Okay, so let's just go to the basics. What is urban poling, or I've also referred to Nordic walking? Well, basically, your upper body is doing a technique somewhat similar to cross-country skiing. So it kind of looks like this. And your lower body is just simply walking. We've called it urban, but it's urban rural settings. I'm going to show you how people do it within their homes. And so as you can see here with this couple, it's really just walking with poles. It's a great activity for right now, with walking being one of the few recommended activities. But poling just provides that bilateral balance. You can bring up the intensity. It makes walking more fun. This is a recreation therapist and a client from a senior living center using their walking path. And it also promotes active living. It's a way to integrate people into the community. A lot of people, can't do a lot of previous activities, but walking with poles, as you'll see later on, really helps to facilitate people of all different abilities. It's something people can do forever. And as you can see in this picture too, it really is a great activity for socializing. So just before I get started, let's take a look at what the activity actually looks like. Maybe you can notice a couple things. One of them is that the reason why this is such an excellent activity for rehabilitation and older adults is that it is actually the same movement as functional walking, which is opposite arm and leg. But let's just take a look in this video at what it looks like. So I'm just going to stop it there so you just can capture a quick picture of what the technique looks like. But hopefully you got from that video that it's fun. You can really bring up the intensity. Obviously, I'm going to show you later on how to really bring down the intensity for people who are in senior living to SNF. But it's just a very fun, fluid movement. And one of the reasons why it really helps out with coordination and improving people's gait patterns is because the poles actually push you forward. It's in a nice rhythmical pattern. And again, it's in that opposite arm and leg. So that's just some of the reasons why it really helps to correct some people's walking patterns. So let's just take a look at what's the difference between just walking and walking with poles. Well, when you're walking, you're primarily using your lower extremity muscles like you are in so many activities that we do. However, when you're using poles, you actually turn walking into a full body workout that works 75 to 90% of your muscles. So it's not just about getting your client to walk more, it's actually getting them to exercise. And one of the most key aspects of this activity is that it's highly effective for core strengthening. So I think we all can agree core strengthening is key in rehabilitation and fitness programs for ability to transfer and ability to walk. And sometimes that makes the difference between the senior being able to, live at home or needing to move on to having more care. But the most common question I get is that I think you can see in the video, people get an understanding of how it really can increase the aerobic workout, normalize the walking pattern. But the most common question I get is, well, how does it work in terms of core strengthening? So I'm just going to show you a quick demonstration through the camera here, and that you can actually do where you are right now. So what I'd like you to do is just put your hand out, just as you saw like in that video, as if you're doing the technique. And land your hand just on the back of a chair or the table where your laptop is positioned. And what I want you to do is that when you press, I'm going to press down on the ledge of this handle, but because you don't have the pole, you can just do it on the top of your laptop desk. And then hopefully what you should be able to see is that when you push down, as if you're pushing down on the pole to bring yourself through, what you should feel is a contraction happening in your abdominal muscles. So just try that. Push down, see if you can feel it in your abs. And then you can also, when you press down on the table, you should feel it in your lats, your pecs, your arms, and your spinal erector muscles. So every time you swing your hand through, you're going to be pressing down on that ledge. That is, so for example, if you were to go for 1 mile, you'd be actually taking 1,800 steps. That is actually equal to 1,800 contractions of your abdominal muscles. So that's one of the reasons why this activity is so popular as a fitness activity, is because it is highly effective for core strengthening. And I think, a lot of people right now are also very concerned about waist circumference. There's a strong correlation with waist circumference with diabetes, cardiac conditions, of course, obesity. So it's not just about mobilizing, it's also about exercising and focusing on that core muscles. So I just want to show you the way that this activity has really been featured by a lot of senior living homes and the media, just because it is so effective and innovative. Here is a newspaper story that came out called Seniors Stepping Out, one of our senior living homes, and then this is just an advertisement from one of the homes as well, showing seniors outside. And then I just wanted to show you this example too, that because the movement is the same as regular walking, it actually lends itself very well for people with dementia. And in fact, some of them I find actually do better with the poles than the general population, because if you just put the poles in their hands, and people aren't really thinking about that opposite arm and leg, which actually makes it more challenging, but you just put it in people's hands and you just allow them to walk at their normal patterns, often they can pick it up very quickly. So that's one thing I say to people too. If you're working with older adults, don't focus on the opposite arm and leg, because that's just something we do subconsciously. So I just wanted to show you an example though, that it is used for people that do have dementia. And of course, this one is actually directed to their caregivers as well, because there's a lot of stress, of course, for caregivers, and it's an activity they can do together as well. So how it's recognized here in Canada, this is our physical activity guidelines for older adults. And if you look here below, under pick a time, pick a place, you can see the first thing that they're recommending actually is join a community urban polling or mall walking program. And now I just want to show you a quick video of kind of the different ways that it can be used. This is actually with a community group of older adults, so they're a little bit higher functioning than you would find in senior living, of course, to SNF. And just so you know, this is in French, our second official language, but I think you'll still be able to understand. I'll try to do a little bit of translation through this too.
I never made it.
Why Nordic walking? 90% muscles.
So I can understand it fully, appreciate my standing, go out of this world and ride on time. Oh, never in my life have I seen the sky light up like this. I'm far away from Earth and I wanna know if you exist.
Reduce stress of your hips and knees. Uses all the muscles. Okay, the other thing is that in terms of rehabilitation, what we've actually seen is a change of practice, that the poles are actually prescribed as a alternative to canes and to reduce or delay the use of walkers. So first of all, I just want to say, I think the walker, the four-wheeled walker, is an excellent tool, and absolutely there are many times that we have clients that require the stability that goes along with the walker. But what I want to just talk to you about is, what are some of the challenges of the walker, and when may it be a possibility that you consider using walking poles versus the use of the walker, or as an alternative for fitness programs or daily walking, but your client continues to use the walker as their primary tool. So I think we can all agree that when we as much as we tell our clients to stand upright, I think we've all seen our clients out in the community with that kyphotic posture when they're using a walker. And if I had you stand up right now and just lean on the table that you're in front, or the back of a chair, I think what you would find is that you actually relax your core muscles, okay? And that really goes against what we're trying to achieve in rehabilitation. There is zero arm swing. Arm swing is something that is required in terms of balance and proper gait patterns. Oh, hold on, let me just bring you back. And there's not a lot of room there for that, for a walking stride. So often what happens is that people really shorten up their stride as well. And that really promotes that shuffling gait pattern. And then I've got my boyfriend, Brad Pitt, here, now that he's available, to show you some of the issues with the cane. You're leaning to one side, so that changes your posture, that changes your gait patterns. You're actually pushing down on the cane in your wrist in a hyperextended position, which actually places the greatest amount of stress on your wrist joint. Whereas when you are using poles, you are forced to stand more upright, okay? By pushing down on that ledge, you're doing the opposite arm and leg. There's a lot of arm swing. It's your normal walking pattern. And as you saw before, it increases your speed and it increases your stride. So I'm just going to play this video. This is actually Dr. Jack Taunton. He was our chief medical officer for the 2010 Olympics. He's had 7 spinal surgeries, and I'm just going to let him talk about why canes and walkers don't make sense for him.
My name is Dr. Jack Taunton. I'm a former international marathoner. ran 120,000 miles and completed 63 marathons. And then, unfortunately, because of congenital spinal stenosis, I had 7 major spine surgeries. And the last surgery, they had to fuse me from T9 with 2 3-foot rods to S2 and 24 3-inch screws. I'm in a body brace. I've lost control of my right leg. But with poles, I can now walk 3, and on the weekends, 4 hours a day. If I was to do this with a walker being bent over, I'm in a body brace to keep me upright. That doesn't make sense. And a cane is the same thing. This, I'm upright. And I can
I like
power.
that last statement by Dr. Taunton talking about power walking. And he's also an icon around here in Vancouver, BC. And I think for Dr. Taunton as well, he just loves the image of the poles as well. He is an athlete. Sometimes there are negative perceptions that go along with canes and walkers. Sometimes it's a bit of a challenge as a therapist to get people to use them. But people often perceive the walking poles as being more related to exercise rather than having limitation. I just thought I'd show you this picture. It actually was also featured in one of our magazines a couple weeks ago. It's actually Dr. Taunton. He just finished doing a 14K event, walking with his activator poles. So let's move on to the research. So as I mentioned earlier, there are 300 independent studies on PubMed. We have 10 studies that are happening on the activator poles that we developed in Canada and in the UK. So let's look at this first study on older adults. It was actually comparing them using resistant bands, and what they found was that Nordic walking provided the best well-rounded benefits by improving upper body strength, cardiovascular endurance, and flexibility. In terms of Parkinson's, this is one group that is a very common user of the poles here in Canada. And this is a study where they had 3 different groups. They had one group that did walking, they had one group that did Nordic walking, and they had one group that did balance and flexibility. And what they found is that all the groups improved in terms of pain, improved balance and quality of life. However, the Nordic walking group had improved posture stability, stride length, gait pattern, which is walking pattern, and less walking variability. So there's a lot of correlation in the research in terms of falls, that the more gait variability or walking variability in your pattern, the greater risk that you are for falls. And here's a fall prevention study that was done on our activator poles. They used the activator poles once a week, and then they did 30 exercises based on the Otago fall prevention program. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the Otago fall prevention program. We use it a lot here in Canada. There's a wide-scale study that was done in New Zealand. But basically, in the study, they took those same exercises and they modified them to using poles. And what they found is that there was a significant change in the following tests: the tug, the stride length, single leg stork stand, which are all risks for falls. And now I'm just going to show you a gait assessment lab study that was done with Barbara. She comes from a senior living home. She's 88, and if you can believe it, Barbara has had 2 shoulder, 2 hip, 2 knee replacements, neck fusion, ankle soft tissue injury. And what we're going to show you is her using the Xeno Walkway, which is a sensory mat for a walking pattern. Let's take a look at Barbara first, walking without poles. So you can see here that she's got a waddling gait pattern. She's really swinging her arms out because she's actually worried she's going to fall. She has had a history of falls. She was previously using a cane. And look how wide her feet are apart. She's walking very flat-footed. Let's take a look at Barbara when she is using the activator poles. You can see right away she's increased her stride length. Her arms are more normal. She's increased her speed. And she's actually lifting up her feet. Okay, and this figure 8 is showing less gait variability. So I just want to talk a couple things. You know, as an occupational therapist, I think you recognize that we are obsessed with fall prevention. And really, one of the big reasons why seniors falls is because they're doing that flat-footed gait pattern. And that really puts them at risk for hitting their foot on sidewalks or changing in flooring. So a big part of using the poles is that people now have the bilateral support to feel confident enough to actually lift up their feet. Okay, so people also use this as a training. And the other thing too is that it increases gait speed. There are several studies out right now showing a correlation between increased gait speed, ability to be more independent, and also it actually also relates to mortality. So they're showing side by side the different results. And what they found is that 37% increase in speed, stride length increased by 62%, and gait variability went down. This is a study just looking at perceptions, what I talked to you about earlier, of Nordic walking compared to canes and walkers. So this is a study that they did at University of Cape Breton. And so they just asked a group of seniors, what were their perceptions with canes and walkers? And this is some of the statements. Don't even want to think about it. I feel old, disability, not ability. I see someone coming with them, I think replacement. If you're a person who needs them, that is good. So overall, it was kind of related to disability, old, broken, joint replacement. Seniors don't want to think about it. And then here were some of the perceptions of Nordic walking poles. Motor positive feeling, athletic or sport, stability, healthy, keeping in shape, useful tool. And some of the comments was, the name is nice, sounds Scandinavian, they are healthy people. Something about the way to keep the body in a decent shape and a tool. Okay, this is the final study I'm going to show you. It's actually from a SNF. So it was over 12 weeks. Participant walked twice a week for 20 minutes. They did it on a one-to-one basis, giving them supervision or assistance. And basically what they found in the results was a pilot study. This is 3 months prior to the study where they recorded the number of falls. You can see there was no number of falls during the study. And then when the program was over, there was a return to falls. So but basically what they found is that this is a viable activity that can be done in SNF. Of course, there is more research that is required. And what they found was there was improvements in balance as well as number of falls. So I'm just going to talk to you very briefly about how we changed the design of the pole. So basically, as an occupational therapist, we designed the pole with a ergonomic handle. So the whole idea behind it was keep your wrist in a neutral position compared to a cane where your wrist is in a hyperextended position. And so that's why we developed the ledge here, so that no matter how much your client is pushing down for balance, for core strengthening, for offloading off hips and knees, the wrist is actually going to be maintained in a neutral position. We also made it strapless, and there was a study that was actually done in Germany by Dr. Knobloch. And what he found is that basically for the general population, Nordic walking is very safe. However, we're primarily in rehabilitation dealing with a lot of clients who are at greater risk for falls. And what they found is that most injuries occur when the pole gets caught or when someone trips and the person is still attached to the pole through a strap. Of course, the most common injury there is a skier thumb injury. And what Dr. Knobloch actually found when we sent the poles over is that with this design, in his view, there probably was less risk for an injury. Okay, the other changes we made as well is that we changed it to a button lock system, because I found a lot of older adults had trouble with doing a turning lock system. They just didn't have the grip strength. And this button lock system holds up to 200 pounds. We also changed it to a boot-shaped tip. Normally, what would happen with a generic Nordic walking pole is that it does have a boot-shaped tip that actually rolls you forward. And absolutely, you can use that for the fitness programs, for seniors that are more active. But what we did was we changed it to this bell-shaped tip for clients that have more issues with balance, for less active older adults. And probably this would be more suitable, this technique and pole, for clients who live in senior living to SNF. So now what I do is just take you out of the PowerPoint, and I want to show you an alternative technique that you can do for creating more balance and stability. So again, you saw earlier the more generic technique of Nordic walking, which is really more about fitness for older adults who are more active. But now what I'd like to do is show you a technique that was actually studied by the University of Western Ontario that is really more about stability and balance for your clients. And this would be the technique that you would primarily use if you wanted to use it as an alternative to canes, or possibly before, if it was deemed appropriate by a physiotherapist or physical therapist, I should say, for them to use walking poles. Okay, I'm just going to adjust the screen here. Okay. So the difference in this technique is that you're actually going to have your elbow be at a 90-degree angle, okay? And you're actually going to keep the poles vertical. As I mentioned, the study by University of Western Ontario, what they found is when the pole is vertical, there is more ability to do offloading and for balance. You're still going to do opposite arm and leg, but you're actually going to keep the pole vertical the entire time that you're doing it, and your elbows are going to be bent, okay? Now, you can, a lot of times when I tell people, keep your elbows bent, what I find is that people lock their arms beside their body and they kind of do this. But actually, you want to have a lot of shoulder range of motion. And so you're actually going to lift and plant the poles about the same distance as that opposite front foot. Okay, so can you see that I actually do have a lot of shoulder motion, but I'm lifting and planting that pole about the same distance as the front foot, and that's what's going to keep the pole in a nice vertical position. Okay, I'm going to bring you back now. So you can see here, this is Jennifer. She's actually had a mild stroke. And you can see here, she's got her elbows bent, and the pole is vertical, and she's lifting it about the same distance as that opposite front foot. So if you want to look for the videos, we have videos on how to adjust the poles and how to do the technique. It's on our website, and it's under Getting Started. You can see both the activator technique and also the urban polling technique. I won't have time today to go over the urban polling technique, but if you want to try out both of them, you can just go to under Getting Started. So now I'm just going to talk to you very briefly about how you can use it for one-to-one rehabilitation. So it's very, if you've got a rehab division in your senior living or SNF, I'm just going to show you a few examples of how we've used it here in Canada. So we've used it for neuro clients, Parkinson's, MS, stroke. It's actually used here for both pre and post hip and knee surgery around week 6 to 8 for an older adult with a normal recovery. And of course, under the approval by the surgeon and the physical therapist, general activation, cancer rehab, amputee. It basically is used almost for any area of rehabilitation where canes and walkers and general activation is required. So I'm just going to show you how it is used for a client that is more frail. This is Carrie, and she is doing it with an older gentleman that she's trying to transition to him at times to not use his walker. You can see that she's actually supporting him from behind. A lot of times therapists will hold on to their hips. She's using a transfer belt as well. And you can see here, initially he's not quite getting the pattern correct for opposite arm and leg. Carrie's not emphasizing that at all. She knows that's going to come later on. But she's just primarily appreciating that he's a little bit taller. He's actually swinging his arms. And you can see right now, he's actually got that opposite arm and leg on his own. So I just want to give you a couple examples of how it can be used with very or less active older adults. And here is a fellow, a therapist is using the poles along to actually facilitate sit to stand. So she's actually using and controlling the pole to help him out with that rhythm to get him to sit to stand. And now Susan's actually just showing how you can use it for facilitating bed mobility as well. She's just showing the momentum again, trying to get him to from lying to sitting. And there she's just showing one of the exercises. Call that the kayaking. I'm just going to show you this last one on how to facilitate arm swing. And just to help to normalize Jennifer's walking pattern. As I mentioned, she's had a stroke. She's actually had 2 strokes. She's got an affected arm and leg. I'm just using it for improving coordination of her arms. It's great for bilateral activities. I can control the movement, the speed. I can push back on the poles, give her a bit of resistance. And there I'm just trying to help her to normalize her walking pattern. Obviously, Jennifer here is many years post-stroke, and she has the ability to do this without the assistance of the poles as well. So now I want to show you is some group exercise programming that you can do with the poles, and just some of the benefits of using the poles for fall prevention programs. So let's look at the 6 most common age-related changes that increase falls risk and how using poles may help out with that. So you can see here, decreased strength, so it can help out with strengthening. I talked about balance, flexibility. You can do much larger movements with clients having the confidence of that bilateral support. Increases their endurance and ability to walk and desire to walk. And this last one here is on eyesight. So what would be the benefit of using poles for seated and standing exercises? Pretty much the same that you would see that we talked about for walking. You've got that bilateral support for balance, and it really helps with your upper body posture. Of course, I've got to shorten the length of the poles. But you can see here how my upper body, when I'm doing exercises, I can push down on the pole to keep my upper trunk more upright. And when I do movements leaning forward, I've got the stability in front. It really helps promote bilateral movement because you've got something in both of your hands. And it also provides a visual, auditory, sensory, and proprioceptive cue to both sides, particularly when you're working with clients that maybe have a weaker side, such as strokes, MS, or Parkinson's, where you really want them to pay attention to both sides of their body during movement, and you're trying to promote coordinated movements together. So I think a lot of clients have really appreciated too that the movement is less abstract. You saw Susan previously doing it with the kayaking or canoeing or bringing the poles up to the ceiling. It just provides you as a tool in your toolbox to make your exercises less abstract. And what the research shows is that it improves motivation to exercise. The exercise can be done anywhere in the home. If you've got a sturdy chair or a wall behind you, it's been really effective for doing virtual activities for clients in their room or in their home. And they've got the poles, of course, in front for that balance, for another tool for stability. So let's just take a look at what does it look like in a group program. Great, so hopefully that gave you an idea of how you can use the poles with different exercises. A lot of those exercises that you saw there were from the Otega program. And finally, for my last slide, I just wanted to show you a testimonial from Don Ferguson. He works in the older adult recreation coordinator, and he said, urban pulling walking poles are phenomenal in older adult fitness classes. The 4 points of contact help improve posture, balance, and security. But most important of all, that participants' self-esteem goes off the chart. And this is just a group of a couple residents from a senior living are actually participating in a community walk-run event with the use of the poles. So thank you so much, everyone. In summary, I covered the research. I showed you how to do an alternative technique called the activator technique, and to show you how we changed the design of the poles for the less active older adults in rehabilitation. I showed you a few seated and standing exercises and the benefits of using them with walking poles. So just want to let you know, if you want to look at more resources, we have the videos, the research, and the training is on our website at urbanpulling.com. If you're interested in getting a pair of the activator poles, we do have professional pricing for recreation programs, senior living to SNF. And our training programs are approved by ProCert with that's the accreditation board for the American Physical Therapy Association or the state boards of physical therapy, the American College of Sports Medicine, and the Functional Aging Institute. And I'm not sure if some of you will be at the International Council of Active Aging this month, but I will be giving a presentation on October 27th if you want to join that one as well. So I will just hand this back to Micah and see if anyone has any questions that they'd like to ask me.
Awesome. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. All right. Questions. There's a lot of good information and questions in here. The first one that I want to make sure, can you send me the presentation to me, Mandy, and that way I can share it with this group that has attended? Because a lot of people are asking if that's shareable. If it's not, that's fine. But is that shareable?
Yeah. Well, let me just see if I could do a. Yeah, I can kind of do a modified. Some of the videos are are only supposed to use for the purposes of education, but absolutely. Let me see if I can just take out some of those and I will send that off.
And then I have a few people that have said that they want to get their their in-laws and family members some of these for them. Let's see if there was any other questions. Did anybody have any questions? Let me just go around the screen and look for those that didn't. I saw a lady using these 12 years ago, but now I want them. That's awesome.
Okay, great.
Does anybody have any questions? I'm going to look at the screen for those that are sharing their screen that can actually say, hey, I have a question. Otherwise, if you just want to chat your question, that'd be fine. But does anybody have any questions thus far for Miss Mandy? I thought it was funny that you had Brad Pitt in there. That was kind of comical.
Right.
One of the questions that I just got is, how do you decide the height? That actually has been
Okay, great question. Okay, so to do the activator technique, just adjust the height so that your, oh sorry, I had it lower because I was doing the seated exercises. Okay, so I just adjust the buttons here, the holes in and put the button through so that my elbow is at that 90-degree angle, okay? So that's if I'm going to do the activator technique. If I wanted to do the fitness activity, then I would still go at that 90 degrees, but then I would bring up about an inch or two, because in the urban poling technique or the Nordic walking technique, your elbow is actually straight and you're going to push the pole out much farther than you do during the activator. Okay, so you're actually you should lengthen it out about an inch or two longer if you wanted to do the urban poling technique. So again, start it off, get it 90 degree, then increase the length. But if you want to do the activator, make sure your elbow is at that 90-degree angle. Okay, so great question.
Another great question. Do you need to go through training in order to train older adults in your program to use them, or do group activities?
You know what? I would always suggest that, just because in terms of safety and, you know, feeling more confident with using it, sort of recognizing, you know, there is contraindications for using the poles, which I didn't go into a lot of detail, but I actually will add to that PowerPoint. So absolutely, I mean, we would always recommend training. And again, it depends. Like some of you have said you just want to try it out with your in-laws. If your in-laws are not using a cane or a walker, then it's pretty, and you don't have a history of falls, well, it's pretty easy for people just to, you know, watch the videos and being able to use it. It's pretty intuitive. However, if you're prescribing it for somebody who lives in senior living or SNF or someone in the community and they've got a condition that affects their balance, then absolutely I would suggest that you do the training. So just, you know, there's other places that provide training as well, and there's the fitness training that is more geared to what you saw in that video where it was just working with community-based older adults who just want to do it for fitness and wellness. That's an instructor course. And then we have another course that is more just focused on rehabilitation, using it one-to-one or using it for SNF or using it for clients who have significant issues with balance and are already using canes and walkers. So depending on how you want to use it, that's where you would determine what kind of training that you want to take with it.
Okay, I hope that answers your question there, Miss White. And then the another question was pricing of the poles. What's the average cost? What is is there a different price for better ones?
Absolutely. So just so you know, the pricing really varies. I mean, you can get cheap poles at Walmart or Costco, and I just advise people that there are lots of good quality poles, which I always recommend. When you go to cheap poles from Walmart or Costco, just be aware they'll have the strap, they'll have a very low weight bearing capacity, so it's really not a safe pole to be recommending, particularly within your organization. But there are absolutely other good quality poles, and the price really varies anywhere from, you can go from $29 to $200. The activator pole, we try to put it in the middle. It's 109. But if anyone is interested, just so you know, we do have American distributors. I'm based here in Canada, North Vancouver, but our US distributors do provide it to anyone who works, is a professional at anywhere from 20 to 40% off. So if you're interested and you even just want to get one pole to trial it or to get it for your in-laws, you can just send me an email and I'll just connect you with the proper US distributor that we have in your area.
And that's great. Thank you. And her email will be in the her email contact info will be in my email following this call. Ann Anderson asked, for those that just want to use them for fitness, not necessarily seniors, are the videos on the urbanpolling.com website?
Absolutely. So that would be, we've called it urban polling, and that's sort of the Nordic walking technique. So absolutely, you'll see on our website, it'll talk about how to adjust the poles and also how to do the technique. So I just want to mention to you that the typical urban polling pole does have this boot-shaped tip. You can actually pull it off and you can put it on our activator pole. So you don't have to buy a different pole if you did get our activator pole and you just wanted to move your client up to the urban polling technique, or you wanted to try it yourself. The tips are interchangeable. And also wanted to tell you that underneath is a carbide steel tip. So if you want to take your group on trails, you know, grass or sand, just pull off the tip and there's a carbide steel tip. So it's one of the reasons why people use it when they're traveling as well. So it has the ability in snow, like we use it here a lot, particularly in the wintertime. A lot of seniors were falling on the slippery conditions, and a lot of therapists would say pull off the tip, and then it allows people to not be housebound. Of course, you know, we never advise people to walk if it's icy, but at least it gives a little bit more stability as well in winter conditions. So I'm not sure, do you guys even, in Virginia, do you guys get winter conditions at all? No? Okay.
No,
just ignore that.
We get enough to scare people that cause accidents, but that's about it. But there are other people on this call that are also from other parts of the country as well. And
okay, great.
Virginia gets we get dustings,
right?
But I'm sure other places across the country, they probably get actual snow.
Okay. Well, we get a lot here in Canada. So.
I'm sure you do. Well, we're coming up on 4 minutes to 12. Does anybody else have any other questions? Oh, someone else likes that they are versatile, very versatile. So
there's a lot of different. I mean, what's neat is that you can use them indoors, you can use them outdoors, you can use them on trails, all different seasons. So it's really neat about the versatility.
That's awesome. So, and some people are starting to leave, so I will go ahead and get ready to close this out. And just remember, everybody, so thank you, Mandy. And for those that are on mute, this is the Universal Sign Language for clapping. So we are clapping over you. I will share Mandy's email in my email following this call. So just a reminder, and also her presentation, as well as she's able to get it to me before then. If not, I will send another email with that. And this is being recorded. So I'll go ahead and stop that in just a few. And that recording will be attached to that email as well. And then just stay tuned for next Friday. We have Dr. Nancy King, who's going to talk about recruitment and retention for senior care options. It's going to be another great discussion next Friday, so please stay tuned to that. And then on a little sneak peek, I'm planning a really awesome conference in February that's going to be a 3-day conference, virtual conference, that I'm going to be putting together with some amazing speakers as well. And I just got confirmation, again, sneak peek, I'm getting Kim Campbell of the Kim Campbell and Glenn Campbell Foundation. Those of you that remember the amazing singer who passed away from Alzheimer's, his wife, widow, is going to be speaking as our keynote that week. So I'm really excited about that. So stay tuned for more on that. But yeah, I'm really, really excited about this and looking forward to it. So stay tuned for more. You all got a little sneak peek, and those that are listening on this recording, shh, I'm going to stop recording now.